Hello dear students. Yesterday we learned about reversible and irreversible changes. Now today we will learn some more different types of changes. Now based on whether the change leads to the formation of a new substance or not, means when that change occurs, when a change occurs, if new substances are formed or not. Based on that, the change can be divided into two groups. Which are the two groups? First group of changes is physical change. As the name suggests, physical means only the physical appearance may change, or sometimes the color may change or the shape may change little bit. Okay. A change in which no new substance is formed is called a physical change. Physical change means only the physical state may change or the size or shape may change, but there will be no new substance formed in that, and most of the physical changes are reversible. Not all changes, but most of them are reversible changes. For example, we discussed just now, formation of ice is a physical change. Have you seen wax? Wax means candles in that white portion is there, that is called wax. So that wax, melting of wax, when you heat wax it becomes liquid form. Again you cool it, it will become solid form. So such changes in which no new substance is formed is called physical change. For example, we discussed that the cup got broken. So though it got broken, substance is not new. It is a irreversible change, but it is a physical change. When the glass is broken into pieces, its properties are not changing. The material will remain glass only. Okay, but the shape is changed. Okay, so it is no, you cannot bring back it to the original form. Similarly, if you tear a paper, the paper will lose its shape, but its all properties will remain. Paper will remain paper only. Okay, such changes are called physical changes. But if you burn the paper, you got ashes, so a new substance with new properties are formed. So such changes are called chemical changes. So we learned first about which changes? Physical change, and then we talked about chemical changes. In chemical changes, what happened? A new substances will be formed, and the new substances will have new properties. Children, you will be surprised. You might have heard about oxygen. Okay, oxygen is used for breathing. Okay, oxygen is a gas, and with oxygen, when hydrogen is another gas. So when we combine oxygen and hydrogen, we get water. Okay, and you have learned that oxygen helps in burning. And what does water do? Water will stop burning. If something is burning, if you pour water on that, it will stop burning. Most of the cases, not in case of oil and all, but we use water for stopping the burns or stopping the fire. Okay, whereas we give oxygen for increasing or to burn something. But this oxygen, when it is combined with hydrogen, totally different properties are there for water. Both of them are gases. When combined, you get a liquid. Okay, so these all are chemical changes. So, okay, and they are permanent changes. Most of them are irreversible. You cannot bring them back easily. Some of them you can bring back, but not physically. You need to take it to the laboratory and work on it, then it is possible. But most of them you cannot. For example, I told you burning of fuel. Similarly, if you burn anything, petrol, oil or anything, when fuels, any type of fuel when you burn, that is a chemical change. Now, sometimes when it is raining or when there is lots of moisture in the air, iron things made up of iron, they get a powder, brownish color, powder like something will be sticked on it. Okay, that is because iron and oxygen and water, they combine and they make a substance which will harm this iron. Okay, chemical formula and all we will learn later on. That substance which is formed is called rust, R-U-S-T, and this process is called rusting of iron. Usually your cycle and all, it get damaged when rusting happens. What happens? The iron will lose its strength. Okay, these are all chemical changes. Now, let us see some of the changes that takes place in our day to day life and identify what type of changes they are. So, before going to that, now what all changes we discussed? We discussed about reversible change, irreversible change, and then we also learned about physical and chemical changes. Now, all of you might have seen a candle, a burning candle. What happens to the candle? When you burn it, the wax, it is made up of wax, and inside the wax there will be a thread which is called the wick of the wax, wick of the candle. Now, when you burn the candle, the wax which is covering the wick, it will start melting and it comes down. Okay, so usually we say that burning of candle is a physical change, but it is not completely true. What happens is, when the wax burns or it melts, some part of the wax will come down, but near the wick where the flame is there, what happens? There you can see a liquid actually. That liquid is again, it is the wax itself, and that liquid portion, due to the heat, it gets evaporated. Okay, so this vapor of wax, when it is burning, it produces carbon dioxide and water vapor. So, the complete wax will not melt and come down. Some part of it will get disappeared and they will form, after burning, they will form carbon dioxide and water vapor. So, it is not completely physical change. New substances are made there. So, it is a chemical change. Not completely chemical, not completely physical also. Similarly, the burning of wick inside, that is a chemical change. Okay, but the melting of wax, simply if you take the wax and melt it, it is a physical change. But burning wax or burning the candle is not totally physical or not totally chemical. It is a combination of both physical and chemical change. And as I told you, the wick, the burning of the wick is a chemical change. Now, sometimes changes occurs. Yesterday we learned that changes occurs due to some cause. Okay, maybe due to heating or cooling or any such, applying pressure. All these are reasons or cause for change. Now, sometimes the changes occur when you mix one or two substances together. For example, if you take salt and water and mix them, you get the salt will change its shape and it will become liquid. So, it is a slight change which is a physical change. And then again, if you boil it, it will turn into, boil and evaporate the water and separate it, you will get the salt back. Again, it is a physical change. Now, have you seen, if you pour some tamarind powder and you add soap to it, the color all and its properties will change. Okay. So, that is a chemical change. So, there are many changes which are chemical, completely chemical changes. Some of them are completely physical changes, and some changes are combination of both physical as well as chemical change. Now, another type of change, it is not a type of change or another type of reaction, is expansion and contraction of substances. It is a change that occurs because of the effect of temperature on it. Most of the substances expand on heating and most of them contract on cooling. Now, what is meant by expansion? Expansion means the increase of size. That means it becomes bigger in size because of heating. That is called expansion. So, that is what is expansion? Expansion means the increase of size due to heating. Similarly, what is contraction? It is opposite of expansion. That is, some of the object they decrease their size when you keep it for cooling. That is called contraction. So, contraction is the decrease in the size of an object when it is cooled or due to cooling. Now, if you take solid, liquids and gases, solids they expand the least, means very less expansion it takes place in solid. Most of the solids they expand very less. Liquids will expand better than solids, and gases they expand and contract, both is maximum in gases and minimum in solids. Now, in our day to day life, this expansion and contractions are used in various ways. Now, let us just quickly revise, just go through it and see where all we use. Here it is only few examples. I am not mentioning all the examples, few examples we will see. All of you are familiar with a thermometer which is used to measure temperature. When you go to a doctor with fever, if you are suffering from fever and if you go to a doctor takes a small glass tube like something and keep it under your tongue or sometimes under your armpit. Okay. So, that is called a thermometer, which is used to measure temperature, and that thermometer work on the basis of expansion due to heating. That means when your body is too hot, when you have fever, when the doctor keeps the thermometer in your mouth also will be very hot. Under the tongue it will be very hot. So, due to that heat, there is a substance called mercury in the thermometer. It expands and it rises up to show the temperature. Okay. Now, if you have seen bullock carts or camel carts, they have wooden wheels, and these wooden wheels they have a rim, an iron rim on it. Now, do you know how they are fitted on that wooden wheel? What they do is they heat the iron rims, and due to the heat they expand. When it is expanded, they fit this wooden wheel and then they allow it to cool down, so they will contract. So, it will get fixed or fitted tightly onto the wooden wheels. Now, sometimes it happens when you close a bottle which has metallic lids. Sometimes while closing it, it becomes very tight, and then next time when you try to open it, it will not be possible. So, usually mothers or at home they use a trick. What they will do, they take some hot water and keep the bottle or the jar I mean the mouth portion, I mean the lid portion will be kept dipped inside the hot water. When you keep it so, what happens? That metallic portion, it expands. When it expands means the lid becomes bigger in size, so you can open it easily. Similarly, you know that most of us use ornaments and metallic things, many things, iron, gold and silver, all such things, aluminium, all these are used to make various things. These are all metals. Now, how do they make or how do they give the shape to this metallic boxes or anything, even your compass box, your compass or dividers in your compass box, all these things are given shape. How do they give, you know? They first melt these metals and then they beat them into sheets and they pull them into wires, and then they give different shapes. And some of them even they melt it into liquid forms and then they pour it into the molds. So, these are all uses of expansion, and after pouring it into the molds or when they make the ornament, they cool it so that they become tight and get contracted. Okay. So, these are different examples of the practical applications of expansions and contractions. Now, we discussed about how expansions and contractions are used in our day-to-day life. Now, everything has positive and negative sides, right? We say every coin has two sides. Similarly, every property also has got positive effects and negative effects. So, we use the positive effects, and what do? We try to overcome the negativity by some means. Okay. So, here we are going to discuss some of the problems that we face due to expansion or contractions. Now, if you see the bridges, when they make the bridges, some special joints will be given to them. Why do you know? Otherwise, due to heat, too much of heat, the metallic part used in them, they will get expanded and they will bend. Okay, so the bridge will have bendings, and it will create problem for traveling on it. So, to avoid that, they give some special joints to them. Now, this is a very important thing. If you observe the railway tracks, if you see, in between there will be some gap left on the railway track. Have you ever thought why? Because when it is too hot, this iron, rails are made up of, the tracks are made up of iron. So, due to heat they expand, and then what happens when they expand means they increase their size. So, one track increases the size, other also increases the size. So, what will happen? They will bend, and when they bend, when the train moves on the track, it will get derailed. Derailed means it will fall down and will cause serious accidents. So, to avoid that, what they do, when they join the tracks, between two tracks always they leave some gap. So, when that gap is there, when it expand also, it will not bend. It may touch each other, but it won't bend. Okay. Similarly, if you observe during the summer season, the electric wires, in winter season or rainy season, they will be tightly, you can see them tied tightly to the poles. But when you look at them during summer season, you may feel that they are sagging, it will be coming down. Again, it is because of, due to summer heat, what happens? The wires which are made up of metals, they get expanded and they increase their length. So, they become loose and they start sagging. Okay. Similarly, the roads, we always complain every now and then roads we have to make again and again. This is also because continuously when it is hot and then cold, again hot, again cold. So, when various seasons occurs, the materials used in them, they sometimes get expanded, sometimes they contracted. So, because of contraction, continuous contraction and expansion, the rod gets broken or it gets damaged. Now, this is again a very practical thing. See, if you observe when you fill air in your cycle tires or in any vehicles, during summer especially we won't fill it completely. What is the reason? When you make it tightly filled with completely filled with air and keep it in the sunlight, sometimes the tires will blast. Why does it happen? You know, inside the tire there is air, and due to the heat outside, the air inside will become hot and it will expand. When it expands, it needs more space. So, when it don't get more space, it will apply too much of force on the walls of the tire and then the tire blast. So, these are all the bad effect of expansion and contraction. But what do we do? Because of that bad effect, we don't leave them. But what we would do, we find out some solutions for that. Okay, all these were some of the solutions that we discussed. So, in this chapter, we discussed about changes, various types of changes, their causes, and due to changes what all benefits we have or what all advantages we have, or how do we use the change for better conditions around us, and if there are some bad effects of the changes, how do we overcome. With this topic, this chapter gets over. That's all for today. Thank you.